Alright, the next piece of artwork that we're going to create is a tree for our level. Now, this could be, if you're not used to drawing in Photoshop, a pretty tricky proposition. But we're going to come up with a way to make it relatively simple. So, we've created a new layer, and we're going to name this layer Leaves Main. And we're going to come over and we're going to find a nice bright green somewhere in, I think I'll keep it right around the middle, somewhere right in there. And we're going to go to our brush tool, grab our hard round brush, and maybe shrink that down a tad, something like that. And we're going to imagine the leaf area of our tree, make sure that we're leaving room for the trunk a little later on. And we're just going to start placing in some circles. Occasionally changing the size of our brush a little bit. Maybe something like this. This isn't too bad. Bring that brush size up a little. Just fill in the middle. Alright, so we've kind of got our leaves going on here. And now we can go ahead and add our cartoon outline to it, just like we did previously. So we're going to go to Edit and Stroke. Change our color to a full black. Click OK. And we're doing pretty good. Alright, that's not bad. Now we're going to have to do some shading on it, just like we did with our mountains. But again, we're gonna hold off a little bit on that. And the next thing we're going to work on is our trunk. Now, this can get pretty tricky if you're trying to draw by hand. Even if we use our wonderful lasso tool, creating a nice straight line isn't all that easy. Now you can do it, and if you don't mind your tree looking a little rough, you don't mind probably fixing like we did on our mountain or redoing a couple times, you might be alright doing this. And maybe we're fine here. So that's not too bad. But just in case this is the kind of thing that's just going to be completely rage quit, we're going to look at another way of doing it more procedurally. So we'll get rid of that. And instead of using our lasso tool, we're going to use our marquee tool. And we're just going to make a rectangle. Something like that. That'll be just fine that way. And we're going to go in, select our first layer. Actually, for now, we can do this one. I'm going to make a layer above that here on top. And we're going to call this Trunk. And we're going to come in and find a nice medium brown. Yeah, better than medium, I think. Something like that. And we're going to switch over to our paint bucket tool if you're still on your gradient tool. We're just going to fill this in. We're going to hit Control plus and zoom up on this just a little bit. And we can deselect, Control D, and lock our pixels again. And now we can do this. There's so many different ways we can go, and you can play around with different ones to get the look you want or the method that you like. But right now I'm going to pick darker color, brown. I'm going to go back to my brush, and I'm going to really take the size of this down. And I'm going to do just like we did the snow. I'm going to click, hold shift, drag that down. Click, hold shift, drag that down. And again, we don't have to be super even with this. Okay? Alright, we're doing pretty good. And next, we're going to manipulate our tree trunk here. So the first thing we're going to do is hit Control T so that we can move this around a little bit. Then we're going to come up and click on our warp tool up here so we can really start to mess with this a little bit. And we're going to pull this out. And just fiddle about. We want to try to avoid having too much of this overlap. I'm just going to take that in. And out here we're going to take it out. And we're not too bad a shape. Now we can hit enter so we can see what we're doing. So we can always adjust this some more. But that's not too shabby. Now you might look at that and think, gosh, Steve, that looks just really super basic and ridiculous. But you have to remember, when you really zoom this out, it's not going to look too bad at all. Once you get it to where it might be on, say, a mobile device in a game, it might only be that big and looks like a tree. If we're doing it for PC, it might be a little bigger. It's still looking okay. So we're doing alright. Now, we're going to take this, and we're going to hit Control J and duplicate this layer. And now you can see when we use our move tool, we've got another one going on here. And that's fine. And we're going to hit Control T again. I'm just going to flip this around. Bring it over. And that's not doing too bad. Let me bring that down a bit. I'm not too worried about this overlap because we're going to fix that in a little bit. So we're doing okay there. And then we're going to go back here. We're going to make another duplicate of it. Control J. And this time we can flip this one by going up to Edit, Transform, and Flip Horizontal. And we can bring this over again. Control T, and pull this down again. And we're going to rotate it a bit. Drag it out in there like that, something like that. Maybe squish it up a little. Make these branches a little smaller. We're just going to fiddle about a bit until we're happy with it. I am going to grab my warp tool again on this. And I'm going to put a little more bend in that. And there we go. Now, what we need to do is get rid of some of these nasty lines we got going on here. So we're going to go to our erase tool. And I'm going to scroll down here. Find some kind of chalk type brush. Yeah, something in there looks pretty good. And we're going to zoom in so we can see what we're doing. We've got to start to get rid of some of this. In fact, I might take this bottom layer, just move it all the way up to the top, and save ourselves a little bit of work here. I've really gone and fiddled about. Had to unlock that layer to keep from getting some weird color. You can see I'm erasing by starting to bring these together, and we'll touch them up a little bit. And we'll zoom in a little more. Don't worry, we can fix all this up. But we're not looking too bad. And like I said, it's going to be really zoomed out, so it's going to be hard to tell. So now we can go back to our brush. We've got our dark color, so we can just kind of fill this in. And bark isn't particularly even, so if we have a few rough patches, we're going to get away with that. And then we can just hit Alt to sample our lighter color. Clean this up a little. And that's not too bad. If you really want to run with that, that is just fine. As you can see, once we zoom out, not too bad, looks like a tree. We're good to go. There is another way to go about this. So what I'm going to do is completely destroy these. If you want to run with it like this, you can leave this, and what we would do is then we would select our top one, hit Control E, and then hit it again to make that trunk all one layer. And if that's the case, you can hang out there and just move ahead to the point where we put our cartoon outline on it. But I'm going to destroy this, and I'm going to show another way to do it. And it's basically the same thing. We're going to do most of the same procedures. I'm going to take our medium color, except I want to once again make a new layer. Be careful of that. And this time I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to manipulate this before I do anything else to it. So I'm going to hit Control J twice, give myself a couple of different copies to work with. And we can go down to our bottom one, Control T, and use our warp tool, pull these together. I'm also going to grab these other two copies. I'm going to move them out of the way just so I can see what I'm doing. So we'll just drag one off over here, drag this one off over here. That's all well and fine. Alright, now once again let's go ahead and hit Control T and bring up our warp tool and start playing around now that we can see. Tighten this up. Tighten this up. Widen this out a little. Then we'll start to put some bend in this. Now this time, because we just have one solid color, we don't care as much if we're starting to overlap some of our warp lines here. It's just not going to matter quite as much. We can take these, come way over here, a little more bend to that, and we hit enter, and that's not too bad. So I might hit Control T, drag this up a little, something like that. Doesn't matter too much. And then we can go to our new layer, and we can bring that over. And we can sort of do the same sort of thing to it. Stretch that up a little bit. Hit my warp tool. Bring my center over a little. You can play around with reshaping these however you want. And actually, I think wasn't really what I had in mind, but it's kind of working for me, so I think we're going to hang with it. And then I'm going to grab my last one, bring it over. And now I'm a little undecided whether I want to arc this the other way, back over here, or whether I want to arc it the other way and bring it up here. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with this yet. But at any rate, we're going to play around until we're happy. You want to be sure you're grabbing somewhere around these control points. Takes a little getting used to. Not sure if I like that or not. Yeah, I don't love it. So we're going to move it over a little bit. I'm going to hit Control T. Bring this up a little. And we'll grab our warp tool again. We can make that work, I think. So we'll grab our brush now. Enlarge it up here a little bit, and we're just going to fill in down here. I can go right down, take the bottom of the brush right at the bottom of this edge, click, hold shift, and bring it across. Just work that into a nice, relatively flat line. And that's not the worst thing ever. We could do better if we spent a little time on it, but we're not too bad. So now we're going to hit Control E, and we're going to take these all down. We're going to lock our pixels, shrink our brush back down, and this is where you can get a little bit neater result, but it is harder than the way we did it. I'm going to make my brush pretty small, down around 6. Now we can just start to draw in lines on our locked pixel. Nope, I don't like that. 6 is still too big. Get that around 3. And we don't have to be overly exact here. We can connect lines, we can do whatever we want. We're allowed, we're artists, we can do whatever we want. And because bark isn't overly perfect, it won't matter. And we've locked our pixels, so we can't really go off the paper. Maybe we'll make something like that. And we end up with kind of a tree bark. And if we back that out, and this is important to do, back this way out, because what we're looking at is kind of like up here in our navigator. We want to see this silhouette from a ways away. So that's not too bad. I am noticing that my one branch is really thin though. So we're going to hit Control T again, and we're going to grab our warp tool again. I'm going to do my darndest to stretch that out a little bit. That'll get us a little bit. We can try another trick too. We could try hitting Control J and making a copy, and then using our arrow keys just to arrow that over. And I think we might actually get away with that. So we're going to hit Control E, blend those two together again. And then we're going to bring our brush back up. We're just going to fix up our lines a little bit. We don't have to be too glorious about this. So if lines run together, it really doesn't matter. I am noticing though, if this one was so thin, if we zoom in, we've got some transparency showing through there. So I'm going to hit Alt and sample this, bring my brush up a little. Well, I should hit Alt and actually sample the light brown. I'm going to have to unlock my layer since it's already blended. Just color that back in. We can relock, and we can resample our dark color. Bring our brush down. Just touch this up. It really doesn't matter too much. And Control minus to zoom that back out. And I think we can live with that. Alright, now, well, once again, we're going to add a border to this. We're going to unlock it so we don't get that funny bleed, or lack of bleed, I should say. Make sure we got black going again. And there we go, we can live with that. Now, this is where the super happy fun times happen. I'm going to bring our trunk down here just so we can see for now. It's going to be right where it was once we're done. I'm going to bring our brush back up. We want it a little bit smaller than these, the circles we had going. We're going to make sure we got a soft brush. And we're going to go back to our lovely, lovely dodge and burn. So we've got our dodge tool, so that's fine. We'll start right there. Of course, we have to actually select the dodge tool. And then we also have to select the leaf layer. I'm really doing it good today. There we go. I'm going to click a few times just to start bringing that out. This is just single click movement. And once again, since we've decided our light source is coming from up here, I'm going to make sure the light's on this side. And we're also going to make it brightest. The closer we get to that corner. So right around here is going to be our very brightest. Now we're going to switch over to our dodge tool and bring that down a little bit. We can start out just darkening this whole thing a little bit. We're using a soft brush, so it's going to tend to darken from the center out. Then we can just bring it down. Darken it over here a little. But I do kind of want to get those circular shapes, because that's going to help in that sense of depth. That's pretty good. And just like opposite of the light, kind of lower corner over here is going to be our darkest area. So we're not too bad right there. Now the only thing I don't like is I kind of wish my trunk was a little more centered. I'm going to bring that over with my arrow key and my move tool. Then I'm going to go back to my leaves. I'm going to hit Control T and my warp tool. And I'm just going to pull this in a little more. Make those circles not quite so perfect. That's pretty good. Alright, now we're going to make a copy of our leaf layer, Control J. Now we're going to move our trunk up on top of our main leaves. And then we're going to take our new layer, I'm going to hit Control T again. And you can warp it if you want. The first thing we're going to do is hold down Shift to keep it uniform, and we're just going to shrink this down. And something's gone terribly awry up here. I don't like that. That's okay. We'll come back and fix that in a little bit. We're just going to bring this over. And then we're going to hit Enter. And we're going to hit Control J to make another copy of that one. Just going to bring this over here. Maybe shrink that down a little bit. And that's fine. And now that we know these two are okay, I'm actually going to go back to this first one. I'm going to make another copy of that, Control J. Then I'm going to take my main leaves copy. I'm going to delete that. Oops, that wasn't the one I wanted to delete. So Control-Alt-Z to bring that back. What have I got going on here? There we go, leaves main. And we can right click, delete layer. Yes, we do. Oh, what we did is in our tree trunk. Alright. So I'm just going to bring that back, go to my tree trunk, try and figure out exactly what I did wrong here. But we'll try erasing. And that seems to work pretty good. As we can't see, and if we happen to catch some branch, that's okay because we've hidden it. And that's not bad. Now I think I'm just going to do a little more touch-up. I think I'm actually going to come in here on my main leaves layer. I'm going to darken down these seams a little. And then I'm going to grab my dodge tool. Get a lot smaller here. And I'm going to keep with my hard brush, I think. I'm just going to lighten that up a little more. Bring my exposure up a little bit. I don't do this too often, but leaves have a bit of a translucency and shine to them. Now, I talked about earlier having our midtones. This might be a case where we go to our highlights. We really work at pulling some of that out. I like that being so sharp, so I'm going to undo a few of those. Go back to my soft brush here. Just to give it a little more pop. When we back that out, see, we got a pretty good looking tree. Now, the only thing we have left to do, the same thing we just did for our leaves, we want to do to our trunk. So we're going to take our burn tool, and I tend to prefer to work with the burn tool first, bring in my darks. And with the burn tool, I tend to prefer to work with a bigger brush so I don't get any weird gradients going on. So I'm just going to take this side, darken that down a little. Then I'm going to grab my dodge tool. And I'm just going to bring that up a little bit. I'm working with highlights, which is working out okay, but you want to be careful with that. A lot of times you'd rather have that on midtones. Most of the time, in fact. But for this one, it's working out alright. And we might even drop that exposure. Just bring in a little bit of highlight over here. But most of this would be hidden by our leaves, so we don't want to get crazy with that. Oh, we take her back out, voila, you have an awesome 2D tree for your game. Alright, that's going to do it for our trees. You can use whichever method you like, and including the first one I showed where you actually hand draw it and get a little bit more rough tree. If you're looking for a hero type tree, that'll take a little more work, but it will give you a better result if you want something that's really gnarled and pretty. But at any rate, next we're going to move on to creating our blocks that we're going to build our level with of earth, and how we can create some different kinds of grass pretty easily to do what we want to do to make our level look great. So I'll see you in that next video.